The morning sun cast long shadows across the gardens of New Seoul Colony. 8-year-old Hana Kim ran between the rows of earth flowers, her laughter echoing through the peaceful settlement. She wore a simple blue dress with small yellow flowers printed on it, the same dress her mother had made before she died 3 years ago. "Hana, don't go too far from the main building," called Dr. So Young Park from the research station. She was working on soil samples but always kept one eye on the little girl. Hana was like a daughter to her now, especially since her father, Commander Tae-ho Kim, spent most of his time in meetings with the alien visitors. Hana waved at Dr. Park and continued playing. She loved the gardens because they reminded her of the stories her father told about Earth. The real flowers from their home planet grew here alongside the native plants of Kepler 442b. The colony had been their home for 2 years now, ever since they came to this distant world to meet with the Galactic Dominion. The humans had been so excited when the aliens first made contact. After centuries of wondering if they were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. The Galactic Dominion controlled hundreds of worlds and thousands of species. They said they wanted to welcome humanity into their great civilization. Commander. Kim had been chosen to lead the human delegation because he was good at talking to people and solving problems. He brought his best scientists and diplomats to this remote world for the meetings. The aliens said it would be safer to meet here, away from the busy trade routes and big military fleets. For 6 months, the talks had gone well. The humans shared their art, music, and stories. They showed the aliens their terraforming technology, the machines that could turn dead worlds into places where life could grow. The aliens seemed impressed and spoke of trade agreements and mutual benefits. But something had changed in recent weeks. The alien commander, Admiral Veltar, had become cold and demanding. He started asking more questions about human technology and fewer questions about friendship. His soldiers, tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms, began patrolling the human settlement more often. "The humans hide things from us," Veltar had said during yesterday's meeting. "Show us all your technology, or we will take it." "Commander," Kim had stayed calm as he always did. "We have shared everything we agreed to share. Our terraforming methods are complex. We need time to explain them properly." "Time," Veltar had laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Humans always want more time. Perhaps you need motivation to move faster." Now, as Hana played in the gardens, 3 Dominion ships hung in the sky above the colony like dark clouds. They had arrived during the night and their shadows made everything feel colder. Captain Jinwoo Lee, the head of colony security, walked quickly across the courtyard toward the main building. His face looked worried, and his hand rested on his weapon. The small human security team had been on high alert since the ships arrived. "Dr. Park," he called. "Commander Kim wants all non-essential personnel inside the main building. Now." Dr. Park looked up from her work. "What's happening?" "The aliens are coming down. A full military escort. This doesn't look like a normal diplomatic meeting." Through the gardens, they could see the alien shuttles landing near the main building. Soldiers poured out, more than had ever come before. They carried weapons that hummed with energy and moved in tight formations like they expected a fight. "Hana," Dr. Park called. "Come here, sweetie. We need to go inside." The little girl looked up from where she was picking flowers. She had made a small bouquet of the yellow earth roses her father loved. "I want to give these to Papa," she said, holding up the flowers. "You can give them to him inside," Dr. Park said, walking toward her. "Come on." Admiral Veltar himself led the group of soldiers into the human settlement. He was taller than his troops, with scars across his face that spoke of many battles. His 4 arms each carried a different weapon, and his eyes glowed red in the morning light. "Humans," his voice boomed across the courtyard, "you have tested our patience long enough. Today, you will give us everything we want, or face the consequences. Commander." Kim stepped out of the main building, flanked by his diplomatic team. He raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Admiral Veltar, let's discuss this calmly. There's no need for weapons or threats." "Discuss?" Veltar's laugh was even harsher than before. "We are done discussing. Your species is weak and primitive. You have one valuable technology and we will take it. The choice is whether you give it freely or we take it from your corpses." The human diplomats looked shocked. This was not how galactic civilizations were supposed to behave. They had believed the Dominion's words about peace and cooperation. "We won't be threatened," Commander Kim said firmly. "If you want our technology, we can negotiate fair terms, but we won't be bullied." Veltar's red eyes grew brighter. "Bullied? You think this is bullying? Let me show you what real pressure looks like." He gestured to his soldiers and they raised their weapons. The energy weapons began to charge with a high-pitched whine that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "Papa," Hana's voice rang out across the courtyard. She had escaped from Dr. Park and was running toward her father with the bouquet of flowers in her small hands. "Papa, I picked flowers for you." Everything seemed to slow down. Dr. Park screamed Hana's name. Captain Lee drew his weapon but knew he was too far away. Commander Kim stepped forward, his face filled with horror as he realized his daughter was running into the middle of a standoff between armed soldiers. Admiral Veltar looked at the small human child running toward them. For a moment, something like surprise crossed his alien features. Then his expression hardened into cruel calculation. "Perfect," he said quietly. "A demonstration of consequences." One of his soldiers raised his weapon toward Hana. "No!" Commander Kim shouted, running toward his daughter. "She's just a child. She's innocent." "Innocence is a luxury your species can no longer afford," Veltar replied. The energy blast lit up the morning sky like a small sun. Hana Kim, 8 years old, fell among the flowers she had been picking for her father. The yellow roses scattered around her still form, their petals mixing with her blood on the alien soil. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to stop blowing. The human settlement stood frozen in shock and horror. Commander Kim knelt beside his daughter's body, his hands shaking as he tried to touch her face. Dr. Park collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Captain Lee and his security team stood with weapons, drawn but knowing they were hopelessly outnumbered. Admiral Veltar looked down at the scene without emotion. This is what happens when inferior species refuse to cooperate. Consider this a lesson. You have 24 hours to transfer all terraforming technology to us, or we will reduce this entire colony to ash. He turned to his soldiers. "Back to the ships. Let them think about what they've seen." As the alien forces withdrew, the humans gathered around Hana's body. Commander Kim held his daughter close, his face a mask of grief and growing rage. Dr. Park activated the emergency quantum communicator with trembling hands. "Earth Command," she spoke into the device. "This is New Sol Colony. Code Red Emergency. They killed Hana. The aliens killed a child, 8 years old. They murdered her in cold blood as a threat." The response from Earth was immediate and sharp. "Repeat that transmission, New Sol. Did you say they killed a child?" "Confirmed," Dr. Park's voice cracked. "Hana Kim, age 8. Daughter of Commander Kim. Executed by Dominion forces under Admiral Veltar as a demonstration of power." There was a long pause from Earth. When the voice came back, it was different. Colder, harder. Message received and confirmed. "Tell Commander Kim that Earth Command sends their deepest condolences and other considerations. Maintain your position. Help is coming." As the transmission ended, none of the humans on the colony understood what those words really meant. They didn't know that Admiral Veltar had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They didn't know that killing one human child would awaken something in humanity that had been sleeping since they reached for the stars. All they knew was that a little girl was dead, and nothing would ever be the same again. The emergency meeting room deep beneath Seoul was silent, except for the quiet hum of computers. Director Kyung-Min Yoon sat at the head of a long table, looking at the faces of the 12 people who made up Earth's most secret organization. These were people the public had never heard of. People who planned for the worst while everyone else hoped for the best. "Play the transmission again," Director Yoon said quietly. The recording from New Sol Colony filled the room. Dr. Park's broken voice describing how they had killed Hana Kim. how an 8-year-old girl had been murdered just to send a message. When it ended, the silence stretched on for nearly a minute. "How long since first contact?" asked General Haiwan Cho. 18 months, replied Dr. Dong Hyun Kang, the head of Earth's Secret Research Division. 18 months of pretending to be weak and primitive while we studied everything about them. Director Yoon stood up slowly. "And what have we learned?" Dr. Kang activated a holographic display that showed the Galactic Dominion's star map. Red dots marked their military bases, trade routes, and communication networks. "We know where they live, how they think, and what they fear. We know their weapons, their ships, and their weaknesses. Most importantly," added Admiral Mi Ranseo, "we know they think we're helpless." The Hidden Defense Initiative had been created 50 years ago, long before any alien contact. Some humans had always wondered what would happen if they met hostile aliens. What if first contact went wrong? What if peaceful species were already extinct because they trusted too much? So they prepared. In secret bases hidden across the solar system, Earth's best scientists and engineers built weapons the public never knew existed. They developed new forms of warfare based on human advantages, creativity, adaptability, and the ability to hold grudges for a very long time. "Captain Choi," Director Yoon said to a woman in military uniform, "status of the Silent Thunder?" Captain Yoonji Choi straightened. "Fully operational, sir. Stealth systems at 100%. The ship is completely invisible to Dominion. Sensors. We've been shadowing their fleets for months without detection. And our other assets? The Sol defense grid is online," Dr. Kang reported. 147 weapon platforms disguised as research stations, mining facilities, and communication satellites, each one capable of destroying a Dominion cruiser. "Ground forces?" Colonel Woo Jin Nam leaned forward. "Special operations. Command has 8,000 troops trained specifically for alien warfare. We've been studying Dominion biology and psychology through our diplomatic contacts. We know how to hurt them and we know how to scare them." Director Yoon nodded. For 18 months, they had played the role of eager, innocent humans who just wanted to join galactic civilization. They shared art and music and stories of peace. They asked naive questions about alien technology while secretly analyzing every piece of equipment the Dominion brought to their meetings. The aliens thought humans were weak because humans let them think that. It was easier to learn about enemies who underestimated you. "The question now," Director Yoon said, "is how we respond to this attack on a human child." "Sir," Colonel Nam said carefully, "with respect, this goes beyond normal military planning. They didn't just attack our colony, they murdered a little girl to make a point. That's not warfare, that's terrorism. Terrorism against humanity's most precious resource," added Dr. Young-hee Lee, the child psychology expert who had helped design protocols for protecting human families in space. "Every parent on Earth is going to hear about this. Every person who has ever loved a child is going to want justice." Admiral Seo spoke up. "The Dominion controls over 300 star systems. Their military has existed for thousands of years. On paper, they should be able to crush us easily." "But they don't know what they're really fighting," Director Yoon replied. "They think they're dealing with a primitive species that just learned to travel between stars. They have no idea that humans have been preparing for war since before we left our own planet." Dr. Kang activated another display showing Earth's true military capabilities. Hidden shipyards that had been building warships for decades. Research facilities where scientists had developed weapons specifically designed to counter alien advantages. Training centers where soldiers learned to fight in environments no human had ever seen. "Most importantly," Dr. Kang continued, "they don't understand human psychology. They think killing one child will make us surrender. They don't realize it will unite every human being in the galaxy behind a single purpose." The reports were already coming in from across Earth. As news of Hana's murder spread, the reaction was immediate and intense. Peaceful protesters gathered outside government buildings demanding action. Military recruitment centers saw lines around the block. Even the most pacifist political parties called for justice. "The president wants recommendations within the hour," Director Yoon said. "What do we tell her?" "We tell her the truth," Admiral Seo said firmly. That we've been preparing for this day since humans first looked at the stars and wondered what else might be out there. That we're ready. Colonel Nam pulled up tactical displays. Operation Fury has been in planning for 3 years. Simultaneous strikes on 12 key Dominion systems. We cut their communication networks, destroy their supply lines, and eliminate their command structure before they realize we're not the helpless primitives they thought. Estimated casualties? Director Yoon asked. Minimal human losses if we maintain surprise, the colonel replied. Dominion losses? Significant. We're not planning a war of occupation. We're planning a war of demonstration, Captain Choi added. The Silent Thunder can reach Admiral Veltar's fleet in 72 hours. His ship killed Hana Kim. I'd like permission to return the favor. Negative, Director Yoon said. Veltar dies last. After he watches everything, he built crumble around him. After he understands that killing one human child was the worst mistake his species could have made. Dr. Lee spoke quietly. Sir, we should consider the psychological impact. Not just on them, but on us. Once we reveal what we're really capable of, there's no going back to being the peaceful species that just wanted to join galactic civilization. Dr. Lee, Director Yoon replied, that species died the moment they murdered Hana Kim. What's being born in its place is something they should have been afraid of from the beginning. The director looked around the table at the faces of Earth's secret guardians. Begin Operation Fury. Full authorization. I want every Dominion military asset within 50 light-years of Earth neutralized within the week. And the response to their ultimatum about the terraforming technology? Admiral CO asked. We give them a counteroffer, Director Yoon said with a cold smile. They have 24 hours to surrender Admiral Veltar for trial, evacuate all military forces from human space, and pay reparations for the murder of an innocent child. If they refuse, he gestured to the star map showing Dominion territory. We show them what happens when humans stop pretending to be harmless. As the meeting broke up, each person left with specific orders. Captain Choi would take the Silent Thunder and begin hunting Dominion patrol fleets. Colonel Nam would deploy special forces to sabotage key installations. Dr. Kang would activate the Seoul defense grid and prepare for any Dominion response. But, most importantly, they would send a message to every human colony in space. Earth remembers. Earth protects its children, and Earth never forgives those who harm them. In orbit around Earth, hidden weapon platforms began powering up. In secret bases across the solar system, ships that had never seen daylight prepared for launch. On training grounds kept invisible, from orbital scans, soldiers who had spent years learning to kill aliens checked their equipment one final time. The Galactic Dominion had ruled space for millennia through fear and superior technology. They thought they understood warfare. They thought they knew how to control primitive species. They were about to learn that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history as predators, and that even in the space age, some instincts never died. The death of one little girl had awakened something in humanity that had been waiting patiently for exactly this moment. Admiral Veltar had wanted to demonstrate the consequences of defying the Dominion. Soon, he would learn what consequences really meant. 3 days after Hana Kim died, the first Dominion patrol ship simply vanished. The crew of the transport vessel Golden Wind was returning from a routine supply run when they found empty space where patrol ship Delta 7 should have been. No wreckage. No distress signal. No explanation. Just an empty patch of vacuum where a Dominion warship had been stationed to guard the hyperspace route. Probably engine failure, the Golden Wind's captain told his crew. These old patrol ships break down all the time, but 2 days later another patrol ship disappeared. Then a communication relay went dark. Then a supply depot reported that their entire security fleet had vanished overnight. Admiral Veltar stood in the command center of his flagship, staring at reports that made no sense. 6 Dominion military assets had disappeared in 5 days. No battles, no enemy sightings, they were just gone. The humans? He asked his intelligence officer. Impossible, sir. Our sensors show their colony ship is still in orbit around Kepler 442b. They have no military vessels, no weapons capable of deep space operations. They're exactly where we left them. Veltar's forearms drummed against the command console. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. The humans had seemed broken after he made his demonstration with the child. They had transmitted their willingness to negotiate terms for the technology transfer. Everything was proceeding as planned. So why did he feel like he was being hunted? Light years away, Colonel Wu Jinnam crouched in the maintenance shaft of a Dominion listening post. His team had infiltrated the station 6 hours ago, moving through blind spots they had identified during months of careful observation. The aliens never suspected that human trade ships had been mapping their facilities while pretending to deliver art and cultural gifts. "Charges set," whispered Sergeant Minho Park over the team's communication link. "This station won't be reporting to anyone after we leave." "Copy that," Nam replied. "Remember, we want it to look like equipment failure. No evidence of sabotage. The techniques were human innovations. Instead of destroying things with obvious explosions, they introduced subtle failures that would cascade into system-wide breakdowns. A damaged power coupling here, a corrupted data core there, a few lines of malicious code in the communication array. To the aliens, it looked like their equipment was just having bad luck. Multiple system failures across their territory, all apparently unrelated. They had no idea that human engineering teams had spent years studying their technology to find exactly these weaknesses. Lieutenant Haiwan Shin floated in her stealth suit outside another Dominion facility, this one a fuel depot that supplied 3 different patrol fleets. Her suit was a human innovation the aliens had never seen. Adaptive camouflage that could mimic the background radiation of deep space so perfectly that Dominion sensors couldn't detect it. "Fuel processing system accessed," she reported through quantum encrypted communication. "Introducing contamination protocols." The contamination was almost artistic in its subtlety. Instead of poison or explosives, Shin introduced microorganisms that would gradually break down the fuel's molecular structure. The ships would run normally for days, maybe weeks. Then their engines would start having problems, power fluctuations, random shutdowns. Eventually, complete failure. By the time the Dominion figured out what was wrong, dozens of their ships would be stranded in deep space. Major Young-Soo Bae led a different kind of mission. His squadron of 6 fighters hung motionless in the shadow of an asteroid, watching a Dominion convoy pass through what they thought was safe space. The human ships were works of art, completely invisible to alien sensors, armed with weapons, designed specifically to penetrate Dominion shields. "Target the escort ships first," Bae ordered his pilots. "Let the transport vessel escape. We want survivors to report what they saw." The attack lasted exactly 4 minutes. Human fighters appeared from nowhere, destroyed 3 Dominion escort ships with surgical precision, then vanished back into space. The transport ship's crew watched in terror as their military protection was eliminated by enemies they couldn't even see. The survivors' report reached Admiral Veltar within hours. Unknown attackers with advanced stealth technology, military-grade weapons, professional tactics. They could have destroyed us all but chose to let us live. Veltar read the report 3 times. "Unknown attackers," he demanded of his staff. "Unknown? We control this entire sector. Who could be attacking our forces?" "Sir," his intelligence officer said hesitantly, "there are rumors among the crew. Some think it might be the humans." "Impossible." Veltar's roar echoed through the command center. "I've seen their technology. They have mining, ships and research vessels, no weapons, no military." But doubt was beginning to eat at him. The attacks were too coordinated to be random, too professional to be pirates, and they had started exactly 3 days after he killed the human child. On Earth, Director Yoon watched the reports flow in from human strike teams across Dominion space. Operation Fury was proceeding ahead of schedule. 12 major Dominion facilities had been neutralized without the aliens even realizing they were under attack. "Phase 2 ready for implementation," reported Admiral CO. "Our deep reconnaissance teams have identified Admiral Veltar's current position. And our psychological warfare campaign? Dr. Young-hee Lee smiled coldly. Working perfectly. We're not just attacking their military assets. We're attacking their confidence, their sense of security, their belief that they understand what's happening. The human strategy was based on deep understanding of Dominion psychology. The aliens were used to overwhelming their enemies with superior technology and numbers. They had conquered hundreds of worlds through direct assault and intimidation. They had no experience with an enemy that fought like humans, patient, creative, and willing to spend months setting up the perfect ambush. An enemy that studied their weaknesses and turned their own strengths against them. The beauty of it, Dr. Lee continued, is that they keep underestimating us even as we destroy their forces. They can't accept that the primitive humans might be responsible, so they're looking for other explanations. Captain Choi's voice came through the communication system from the silent thunder. We've been tracking Admiral Veltar's flagship for 18 hours. He has no idea we're here. The ship that killed Hana Kim is completely defenseless. Maintain surveillance only, Director Yoon ordered. We're not ready for direct confrontation. Yet. Keep gathering intelligence on their fleet movements and defensive capabilities. Sir, Colonel Nam reported from his team's latest infiltration. We've accessed the Dominion's military communication network. They're calling emergency meetings. Some of their commanders are starting to panic. Perfect. Fear is a weapon we can use better than any bomb. The reports from Dominion space painted a picture of growing chaos. Supply lines disrupted, communication networks unreliable, patrol ships afraid to travel alone, military commanders questioning whether their sensors could be trusted, and through it all the humans remained invisible. Ghost-like attackers who struck without warning and vanished without trace. Every failure looked like accident or equipment malfunction. Every loss could be explained by bad luck or poor maintenance. The Dominion leadership was beginning to suspect they had a serious problem, but they still didn't understand what kind of enemy they were facing. They kept thinking in terms of traditional warfare. Big fleets, obvious weapons, straightforward battles. They didn't realize that humans had learned warfare from millions of years of hunting creatures bigger and stronger than themselves. Humans knew how to be patient, how to study their prey, how to wait for the perfect moment to strike. Admiral Veltar stood alone in his private quarters, staring out at the stars. Something was wrong. Something was hunting his forces with patience and precision that felt almost human. But that was impossible. He had seen the humans. Weak, emotional, primitive. He had killed one of their children and they had barely reacted. They were scheduled to surrender their technology in 2 days. Weren't they? For the first time since he had begun his military career, Admiral Veltar felt afraid, not of any specific enemy, but of the unknown, of the feeling that somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something was watching him. Something that remembered a little girl with yellow flowers, something that was coming for him. The first sign that Admiral Veltar's world was ending came at exactly 0400 hours ship time, when every Dominion military base in 12 star systems went dark simultaneously. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply dark. Communication arrays stopped working. Sensor networks failed. Command computers crashed and refused to restart. Across 300 light-years of space, the Dominion's military infrastructure collapsed in perfect coordination. Sir, the intelligence officer's voice cracked. With panic, we're receiving emergency transmissions from Sector Command Outer Defense Grid and the shipyards at Kelso Prime. Everything's going down at once. Admiral Veltar stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship, watching his empire crumble in real time. Impossible. This has to be equipment failure, some kind of cascade malfunction. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're detecting massive hyperspace signatures. Multiple fleets dropping out of jump space across all affected systems. Whose fleets? Veltar demanded. The officer's face went pale. Unknown configurations, ships we don't recognize. And sir, they're using our own identification codes. Light years away. Admiral Miran Seo stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, humanity's first official warship to reveal itself to the galaxy. Around her, Dozens of human vessels emerged from hyperspace like predators stepping out of shadows they had hidden in for months. "All ships report ready status," came the voices of human commanders across the fleet. Captains who had spent years training for this moment. Crews who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history, revealing to the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. "Begin Phase 3 of Operation Fury," Admiral CO commanded. "Show them what happens when humans stop pretending to be harmless." The Dominion shipyard at Kelso Prime was the first to understand what they were really facing. The massive construction facility could build 100 warships at once and was protected by orbital defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. Captain Sung-Ho Choi led the assault on the shipyard with 40 human ships against over 200 Dominion defenders. On paper, it should have been suicide. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "Dominion defenders are moving to intercept. They're demanding our surrender." "Open a channel," Captain Choi ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." The transmission went out on all frequencies, not just to the Dominion forces but to every ship and station within sensor range. Captain Choi's voice was calm and professional, the voice of someone who had trained for years for this exact moment. "This is Captain Sung-Ho Choi of the United Earth Alliance Navy. We are here in response to the murder of 8-year-old Hana Kim by Admiral Veltar of the Galactic Dominion. You have 30 seconds to stand down or be destroyed." The Dominion. Commander's response was immediate and arrogant. "Unknown vessels, you are outgunned 5-1. Surrender immediately or we will demonstrate why the Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. "Demonstration received," Captain Choi replied. "Here's ours." What happened next became legend throughout Dominion space. The human ships didn't charge into battle like traditional fleets. Instead, they seemed to dance through space, their movements precise and coordinated in ways the aliens had never seen. Every human weapon had been designed specifically to counter Dominion technology. Their shields, based on Earth's study of alien defensive systems, could absorb energy blasts that should have vaporized them. Their weapons fired projectiles that ignored Dominion shield frequencies entirely. But the real shock was the tactics. The humans fought like no species the Dominion had ever encountered. Instead of the formal battle lines that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia, the humans used fluid formations that constantly adapted to changing conditions. "They're not fighting like a military force," the Dominion tactical officer reported in panic. "They're fighting like a pack of predators," which was exactly what they were. Humans had learned warfare from millions of years of pack hunting, of cooperative strategies for bringing down prey larger than themselves. They had refined those instincts through centuries of fighting each other, and then focused them through decades of secret preparation for exactly this scenario. The battle for Kelso Prime lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the shipyard was inhuman. Hands and 200 Dominion ships had been reduced to scrap metal. The human casualties were exactly 0. Similar scenes played out across 12 star systems. At every major Dominion installation, human fleets appeared as if from nowhere, and systematically dismantled defenses that had been considered impregnable for thousands of years. The Dominion's advanced technology meant nothing against enemies, who had spent months studying their weaknesses. Their superior numbers were useless against tactics they couldn't predict or counter. Most terrifying of all, the humans were clearly holding back. They destroyed military targets with surgical precision, but left civilian installations untouched. They disabled enemy ships instead of destroying them when possible. They fought with the restraint of apex predators who knew exactly how much force was needed. Admiral Veltar received the reports in growing horror. "How many ships have we lost?" "Preliminary reports suggest over 400 vessels destroyed or captured," his aide replied with a shaking voice. "But sir, that's not the worst part." "What could be worse than losing 400 ships?" "Sir, they broadcast a message after each victory. The same message repeated in every language in the Dominion." "What message?" The aide activated the recording. Admiral Seo's voice filled the bridge, calm and implacable. "This is Admiral Miran, CO of the United Earth Alliance. We are responding to the murder of Hana Kim. An 8-year-old human child killed by Admiral Veltar as a terrorist demonstration. This is the consequence of harming human children. This is the price of underestimating humanity. Admiral Veltar, we are coming for you. Veltar's 4 hands clenched into fists. They can't have this kind of military power. We've studied them. They're primitive. Sir, his intelligence officer said quietly. What if they were never primitive? What if everything we thought we knew about them was wrong? The question hung in the air like a curse. For 18 months, the Dominion had negotiated with humanity, thinking they were dealing with innocent newcomers to galactic civilization. What if the humans had been studying them the entire time? What if every cultural exchange, every diplomatic meeting, every shared piece of information had been part of an intelligence-gathering operation? They gave us art and music, Veltar whispered. Stories and poetry. They seemed so peaceful. Maybe that's what makes them dangerous, the officer replied. A species that can create beauty, but also wage war like this. We've never encountered anything like them. The reports kept coming in. Human forces were advancing on 3 different fronts, moving with coordination that suggested months of planning. They knew exactly where to strike, exactly which facilities were most important, exactly how to cause maximum damage to Dominion military capability. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from Earth itself. It's addressed specifically to you. Put it through. The holographic display activated, showing a human in what was clearly a military uniform. Director Yoon's face was calm, almost peaceful, but his eyes held something that made Veltar's blood run cold. Admiral Veltar, the human said, my name is Director Kyungmin Yoon. I represent the true government of Earth. You killed a human child named Hana Kim. You thought this would make us surrender. Instead, you have awakened something in humanity that we hoped we would never have. To show the galaxy, the director paused, looking directly into the camera. You wanted our terraforming technology. Here's what we're prepared to offer instead. Your life in exchange for complete Dominion withdrawal from human space and reparations for the murder of an innocent child. And if I refuse? Then you will discover why every predator species in Earth's history learned to fear humans. You will learn why we became the apex predators of our world, not through strength or size, but through intelligence, cooperation, and an absolute refusal to forgive those who threaten our young. The transmission ended, leaving Veltar alone with the growing realization that he had made the worst mistake in Dominion history. He had thought he was dealing with sheep, and discovered he had awakened wolves. Across the bridge, alarms began, sounding. Sir, human fleet detected entering our star system. They're heading directly for us. Through the viewports, Veltar could see them coming. Dozens of human ships moving in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technology the Dominion had never seen before. At their head flew a single vessel that seemed to pulse with barely contained energy. The silent thunder had finally dropped its stealth systems and was revealing itself to its prey. The hunt was over. The reckoning had begun. Admiral Veltar's surrender came not with the thunder of battle, but with the quiet click of weapons powering down across his entire fleet. Captain Yoonji Choi stood on the bridge of the silent thunder, watching as 200 Dominion warships submitted to boarding parties from just 30 human vessels. The aliens' will to fight had crumbled when they realized the true scope of humanity's capabilities. Sir, her tactical officer reported, Admiral Veltar is requesting permission to come aboard under flag of truce. Granted, Captain Choi replied, but make it clear he's not negotiating, he's surrendering. The war that had lasted 2 weeks was ending not because humanity had run out of enemies to fight, but because there were no enemies left willing to fight them. Word of human military capabilities had spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace communication. Species that had never heard of Earth were suddenly very interested in staying on humanity's good side. On the former Dominion capital world of Nexus Prime, President Da Yun Hong of the United Earth Alliance stood before a gathering unlike any in galactic history. Representatives from over 300 species had come to witness the trial of Admiral Veltar and to understand what humanity intended to do with its newfound position of power. The courtroom was a masterpiece of human engineering, a transparent dome that allowed the proceedings to be broadcast across the galaxy, with universal translators ensuring that every word could be understood by every species present. Judge Kate Moon called the court to order. This tribunal is convened to hear charges against Admiral Veltar of the former Galactic Dominion for the murder of Hana Kim, age 8, citizen of Earth. Veltar sat in the defendant's dock, no longer the proud military commander who had terrorized the galaxy for decades. His forearms were restrained, but it was his spirit that seemed truly broken. He had watched his empire crumble in just 2 weeks of human military action. "How do you plead to the charge of murdering an innocent child?" Judge Moon asked. Veltar's voice was barely audible. "I plead guilty, but I want the galaxy to understand why I did it. Speak." For 3,000 years, the Dominion maintained order through strength. We showed primitive species the consequences of defiance. It was necessary to maintain peace. Judge Moon's expression didn't change. "You killed an 8-year-old girl to maintain peace?" She was just a symbol. I didn't think of her as an individual. I thought of her as a message." The courtroom fell silent. In the gallery, representatives from dozens of species exchanged glances. Many of them had children of their own. Many of them remembered when the Dominion had made similar demonstrations against their people. "Admiral Veltar," Judge Moon said quietly, "you have just explained why your empire fell in 2 weeks while humanity conquered the galaxy in the same time. You saw a symbol where we saw a daughter. You saw a message where we saw a murdered child." Hesitant, Hong rose from her seat in the gallery. "If I may address the court?" "Granted." The president walked to the center of the courtroom, her presence commanding attention from every being present. "Admiral Veltar killed Hana Kim because he thought humans were weak. He thought we would surrender rather than fight. He was wrong about our strength, but he was right about one thing: we didn't want to fight." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "Every species in this room has children. Every species here understands the bond between parent and child. Admiral Veltar gambled that humans would value their own safety more than justice for one murdered girl." The president's voice grew stronger. "He learned that some things are more important than safety. Some things are worth any risk, any sacrifice, any cost. The life of a child is one of those things." She turned to face Veltar directly. "You wanted to send a message, Admiral. Here's ours. Touch one human child, and answer to all of humanity. This is our only warning." The trial continued for 3 days, but the outcome was never in doubt. Veltar was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment on a human-controlled world. The sentence was considered merciful by many who had suffered under Dominion rule, but the trial was only part of what was happening on Nexus Prime. In conference rooms throughout the city, humanity was laying the groundwork for a new kind of galactic civilization. "The Galactic Dominion is finished," announced Director Yoon at the Constitutional Convention. "The question is what replaces it." The answer was something unprecedented: the Galactic Confederation, a voluntary alliance of species based on mutual respect rather than fear. Humanity would serve as its military protector, but every species would have an equal voice in governance. "We don't want to rule you," President Hong explained to the assembled delegates. "We want to protect you. There's a difference." The difference became clear in the months that followed. Human military forces took over former Dominion bases, but instead of occupying them, they transformed them into defense stations for the protection of all member species. Human technology, previously hidden, was shared freely with anyone who pledged to uphold the Confederation's principles. Most importantly, humanity established the Hana Protocol. Any attack on children of any species, anywhere in Confederation space would be met with the full force of human military might. Commander Tae-ho Kim returned to Kepler 442b 6 months after his daughter's death. The colony had been renamed Hana's World, and the garden where she died had become a memorial that drew visitors from across the galaxy. Dr. So Young Park found him there on the anniversary of Hana's death, sitting among the yellow roses that still grew where she had fallen. "She would have been 9 today," he said quietly. "She saved the galaxy," Dr. Park replied. "Her death showed the universe what happens when someone threatens human children. No child of any species will ever face what she faced." "Was it worth it?" Commander Kim asked. "All this war and death and change, was it worth her life?" Dr. Park knelt beside him and picked one of the yellow roses. "Ask me in 100 years when children from 1,000 different worlds play safely under human protection. Ask me when the HANA Protocol has prevented 1,000 other tragedies." Around them, the memorial garden bloomed with flowers from dozens of worlds. Species from across the galaxy had sent seeds and plantings to honor the little girl whose death had changed everything. At the center of the garden stood a simple monument, a statue of Hana Kim, carved from earth marble, holding a bouquet of flowers. The inscription was in every language of the Confederation. In memory of Hana Kim, age 8, beloved daughter, innocent victim, and unwitting catalyst for a better galaxy. Her death taught us that some things are worth any price to protect. President Hong stood at a podium in the Confederation Assembly, addressing representatives from 400 worlds. "Humanity has learned much in our short time among the stars. We have learned that the galaxy is full of wonders we never imagined. We have learned that cooperation achieves more than conquest." She paused, looking out at the diverse gathering of beings who had chosen to join humanity's vision of galactic civilization. "But most importantly, we have learned that strength without compassion is mere brutality, and compassion without strength is mere wishful thinking. The Galactic Confederation will have both. We will be strong enough to protect the innocent and compassionate enough to nurture the growth of every species under our care." The applause that followed came from dozens of different species, each expressing approval in their own way. But the message was universal. For the first time in galactic history, the strongest military power was also the most committed to protecting the weak. In the months that followed, human ships patrolled trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for millennia. Human engineers helped struggling colonies develop sustainable technologies. Human diplomats mediated disputes between species that had been enemies for thousands of years. And on every human ship, in every human facility, in every corner of space where humanity's influence reached, the same message was displayed in simple, clear terms. We are humanity. We protect children. We remember our own. We never forget, and we never forgive those who threaten innocence. The galaxy had learned what it meant to awaken humanity's wrath. Now it was learning what it meant to earn humanity's protection. The Galactic Dominion had ruled through fear for 3,000 years. The Galactic Confederation would endure through something much stronger, the promise that no child, anywhere in the galaxy, would ever again die alone and afraid while humans drew breath to prevent it. Hana Kim's death had ended one age of galactic history and begun another. Her legacy would live on in every protected world, every safe trade route, every child who grew up free from the fear that had once dominated the stars. The little girl with yellow flowers had saved the galaxy by showing it what humanity would do to protect innocence. The universe would never forget.